Hi, everyone. I'm Damian. I'm the head of growth of Starknet Foundation. Starknet is a layer 2 validity rollup built on Ethereum. Primarily, we use a proving system called Starks to scale Ethereum. And I primarily take care of partnerships, BD, general growth stuff.
Here. Hello, everyone.
Oh, you gotta flip it up.
There we go.
Check. Awesome. I'm Veer. I'm the head of BD at Mantle. Mantle Network is an L2 that usually people know us by, but we also have a liquid staking protocol called METH protocol or METH protocol, whatever you prefer to call it. Also some other products. We're working with Antalpha and Kobo on something called FBTC, which is already live, which is an interesting timing right now in this market and in the state of things with the Bitcoin stuff on EVM chains and so on. So we're actually much more than the L2, which is just something that I want everybody to remember.
Hi, I'm Kenny. I'm on the other MAN network, Manta, and co-founder over there. We are also an Ethereum-based L2, and I think right now we're the largest general purpose modular L2, yeah.
Hi, my name is Laura. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of MegaETH. So MegaETH is a real-time blockchain with extremely low latency with 100,000 TPS. And the reason we can make it happen is actually we're layer 2. So we're not going to make the security happen through the node distribution and so on, and take care of all the dirty work that need to ensure the chain can work, as well as I'm now leading all the conversation with tools and infrastructures.
So I asked a lot of people to prep for this panel what I should ask, and the number one question on everyone's mind was, why do we need more chains? Why? So I'm curious for each of you, why do you think your chain kind of deserves to exist, and how does it stand out from everything else in the ecosystem? Whoever wants to start.
All right, I can start. So I guess there's two questions. If there should be more L2s, if there should be more chains. And inside of me, there are two wolves. In some sense, I'm the pessimist in me is like, well, there's way too much block space already. There's not enough applications. We don't need block space right now. Like we're good. The optimist in me says, the world is going to change. Everybody's going to come to crypto. We definitely, especially on the Ethereum land, we definitely need to scale Ethereum. And for that, we need many, many, many L2s on top of Ethereum, whether they're maybe a handful of general purpose chains or more specialized chains for certain types of applications, or even application chains on Ethereum. I think I also believe in that. So I guess long-term thinking, it's absolutely needed. For us, what differentiates us, so I mean, we are fairly vanilla from the builder's perspective, from developer's perspective. So EVM chain, anybody who's done anything in the Ethereum land on EVM or Solidity can build applications on us. However, we are the first protocol, the first L2 to work with eigenlayer on our DA design. Currently, it's Mantle DA, which is it's an eigenlayer instance that we self-host, and once we feel like EigenDA is fully tested, we're going to be moving to mainnet with EigenDA. And what that allows for is quite a bit more throughput. So currently with 4844 chains, you're throttled at tens of kilobytes per second of throughput. With an alt-DA design like EigenDA, I mean, there's a good tweet out there that all the L2s can currently fit into EigenDA. So EigenDA currently is at about 15 megabytes per second, but with some other optimizations and hardware and so on, it can go, theoretically up to a gigabyte per second. So we are preparing for much more throughput, for much more need for block space, and we already have quite a few applications that are going to need quite a bit more than that's what's available right now. We also have other things like, I think for longevity of chains, infrastructure costs for L2s is not nothing. Many of you have heard of some infrastructure deals and how much chains have to pay per year for some of these integrations, and it's millions and millions of dollars per year. We are very well capitalized. We have the largest on-chain treasury in the industry with liquid assets, ETH, stables, and so on. And yeah, we're here for good. We're a very sustainable well-funded protocol, and yeah, we can make it for years to come. And that's I think the longevity part of L2s is something that's not talked about enough.
Got it. So fast, you're gonna have a lot of money to be around for a while and gifted protocols. And did I miss a third one? Cheap. Oh, cheap.
Sure.
Okay. Anyone else want to go next?
Yeah, I can quickly go. Do we need more L2s? Like, probably not. Will we get more L2s? Probably. Like, so long as there's a financial incentive and there's funding going into the space, and infrastructure is probably one of the most profitable investments of the last 3 to 4 years. So we'll probably get more L2s. Whether or not they'll stay, how they'll scale, I think a lot comes down to culture and identity, right? Solana did really well over the last 3 years. They branded themselves as the fast and cheap chain. And so if you want to do something fast and cheap, low latency, you go and build on Solana. I think if we look even outside of blockchain, if we look at something very generalist, like let's talk about fashion, for example, there are many subcultures within fashion. There's many subcultures within music. People gravitate towards things that they identify with. And so long as your chain can create that identity and there are people that still want to be part of that, then your chain will probably keep going on. For Starknet, it's all about verification, so validity, about zero knowledge. And if I'm going to a long or short, whether or not the need for validity is going to go up in the next 3 to 5 years, I'd probably put a small long on that. And in that sense, that's why I think like zero knowledge rollups, not just Starknet, but a lot of those will have a place in the next little bit.
So bullish on culture and validity. And so, maybe Laura, we'll jump over to you. You had a visible reaction when he was talking about how if you want to build something fast, you build it on Solana.
I dislike that statement. Yeah, so my answer will be we need more layer 2 with product differentiation. Well, product differentiation is actually a very general term. Our interpretation in terms of product differentiation is that the differentiation that end user can feel. It could be a cultural differentiation. It could be like native yield differentiation. And frankly speaking, like I actually got an investment background. So if I see the layer 2 is an easy answer for product differentiation, that's a very simple and strong message to deliver to all the end user developers' performance. So that's a super easy answer. And my CTO actually gave us an even better explanation saying you only get to the era when the personal laptop can do a lot of things that generally speaking, end user don't even need that performance. That's the starting time that developers got excited. So this is actually the how we can truly bring new end user experience that the user don't need to know how it's happened, but that's going to be happen with whatever hardware or like existing infrastructure is able to produce. That's how we see answer in terms of, at least from MegaETH's perspective, why we need more layer 2, but it definitely need to be product differentiation.
So you use product differentiation so that they can bring magic to the end user, it sounds like.
That's the single most important problem today in this industry.
Anything to add, Kenny?
Yeah, I think it's a very short-sighted question because, we're in this era of Web3 of starvation mode, which is essentially there's not really many users, right? And so as a result, right, the applications suffer and the applications suffer. That goes into the infrastructure suffering as well. And everyone's just kind of suffering all around. And, in this sort of starvation mode, right, are there objectively too many L2s? Is there objectively too much block space? Yes. But I think the kind of issue here that we're trying to solve in the long term is not just about like, whether or not we can launch more L2s, because at the end of the day, if we're really going towards this, 1 billion users, there's nearly not enough L2s right now in existence. But why do all these variations of L2s exist, right? And I think like many people don't really care. And I don't think people should care. That's the whole purpose of infrastructure. It should be more commoditized. But I think the reason is because there needs to be this chapter of experimentation and innovation, right? I don't have to go and repeat what everyone else already sort of said, but you can see, right, everyone's got their own approach to how they want to do things. And who knows which approach is going to be the right way, right? We don't know, which is why we do need this age of experimentation. And at the end of the day, I hope I hope for the entire benefit of the industry that all of the benefits, all of the discoveries that we have on the infrastructure level will ultimately come into some sort of culmination of a truly scalable infrastructure that can be abstracted for the end user. And so I think that's all what we're working towards, and we're taking 1,000 different approaches to get there.
And so maybe do you want to say a little bit more about, from your perspective, where your chain fits in terms of that experimentation? And
Oh yeah, I forgot that part.
part two. Why are you here?
So why Manta, right? So yeah, I think like for Manta, right, one of our philosophies here, and I know that the idea of modularity is an extremely overused term, but I want to give you sort of a background on why we decided to go this route. And so if you rewind back to maybe like 2013, 2014, maybe that was kind of the era where you've got Bitcoin and Bitcoin forks, right? I mean, who here remembers Litecoin? Right? Who here has Litecoin?
It's still around.
Wow, that's great. That's actually more than the sample size or the statistical sample that I normally get. But I mean, Litecoin ended what, or the founder left in what, 2018 or something, right? So, it's not too old, but in Web3 age, it's very old. But the point here is that you start in 2013, you see Bitcoin, you see all these forks of Bitcoin, all these different sort of approaches to how you should create decentralized finance, right? Like you've got Bitcoin Cash that says, oh, we're going to up the block size, and that's going to solve the world's problems. Obviously, none of these things solve the world's problems, and Bitcoin is still around today, and everything else kind of fell by the wayside. But there's been so much money, so much energy, so much talent put into all that innovation. And the question is, where are they today, right? They built everything in-house. And at the end of the day, the users' needs, the users' requirements, the value proposition to users changed. What did it change into? It changed into Ethereum, right? And not Ethereum, but what does Ethereum stand for? It stands for decentralized applications, building an entire Web3 ecosystem beyond just simple financial transaction. And so once you get to the Ethereum era, you see the same pattern of behavior, all these forks of Ethereums, these Ethereum killers, right? Who remembers EOS? Right? Yeah, right? I think like, everyone was saying, oh, this is the next Ethereum killer, or this is the Ethereum of China, or this is the Ethereum of Zimbabwe. And, like everything's supposed to be, a killer, and everyone puts the same amount of money and effort and time. And now all of a sudden, right, what's left today? It's still Ethereum, and everything else has kind of fallen by the wayside. But again, you waste all this time, energy, money, resources on something that ended up not really going anywhere. I think we would be fooling ourselves to think that the L2s are different, right? I mean, you're looking at an era now where you have so many L2s and everyone says they're the best. Heck, everyone here, we all think we're the best. We all love the smell of our own farts, but obviously on the application deployment side, it's not the case, right? If one L2 was truly the best, then why is every single application deploying on every single L2? Right? And so like, I think that's already saying that there's not going to be a survival of all 1,000 L2s. And so the question here is, how do you break the curse of the past in 2013, in 2016, and now, right? Like you have to build for survival. And survival comes in the shape of many things, right? It comes in the shape of a large piggy bank. It comes also in the shape of technological adaptability. And so this is where we believe the modularity thesis really comes in. I'm sorry, this is very long-winded, but the idea here is that instead of trying to build everything in-house, which we've seen in the past fail, why not start taking all the specialized components that everyone else is already building and plug them into your infrastructure as needed in order to actually adapt to the changing needs of the users. But anyway, yeah, so that's Manta.
And so which part? So Manta's focused on modularity?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I think I think that kind of goes to the next question that I was curious about, which is a lot of people are looking at, and it's in the name of the panel, fragmented world. Are L2s fragmenting Ethereum? Are they fragmenting Ethereum liquidity? Are they splitting where the money is? Are they splitting users' attention? Are they splitting developers' attention? As if we kind of go down this route that you said, we're experimenting more, there's going to be more L2s. How do we prevent it from becoming maybe overly fragmented? And are we detracting from Ethereum's mission of trying to create this decentralized world computer? Anyone want?
Yeah, actually, I want to touch on Kenny's point for a second. Like, I think that's actually a really interesting question. Like, what changed with the onset of Ethereum that was different to Bitcoin that then made it become the next thing that people focused on? And I don't know if the answer is right, but I feel like Ethereum unlocked a new paradigm of what's possible that wasn't possible on Bitcoin, which is why that wave of innovation came through there. And a lot of what L2s present today is not that dissimilar to Ethereum. It sort of differentiates themselves on speed and perhaps cost and perhaps scale, not really in decentralization, but those things aren't really enough to guarantee their survival. It's probably why most of them will fail. In terms of the fragmentation question, like fragmentation is really just a product of the maturation of the industry, right? It goes through this like J curve where everyone's innovating and then everyone's building stuff and then everyone's competing for attention. And then eventually the industry normalizes into, a duopoly or a monopoly or perhaps like a top 4 companies. That's most likely what's going to happen today. And going to Kenny's point, it's like the ones who make it will be the ones who actually provide something that is different and not possible on the original base chain. I think for Starknet, for us, and maybe for a few of these guys here as well, like we offer verifiability, right? We offer computationally correct, verifiable computation that can occur in an environment that is as immutable and as verifiable as an on-chain environment on Ethereum, but being able to put that computation off-chain. And that's powerful, especially as we need more computation going into the future, especially as we need more verification going into the future. So yeah, I guess that's how they would do it.
And so I think, unless anyone else wants to jump in there, maybe the question to pose to the rest of you as well is, you're kind of saying we're fragmenting because we're in this world of experimentation and there's going to be let 1,000 flowers bloom and see what sticks. I think was it Kenny you were saying we're gonna have 10 we don't have enough L2s for the next billion users. Like which is it? Are we in a world where there's gonna be 1 million L2s? Is there gonna be an L2 for every country, for every industry? Is everyone gonna have their own personal L2, or are we just gonna have MegaETH and Solana and Monad and maybe a couple of others that
And Manta.
and Manta,
Right.
that Mantle, Starknet, the guys in there, a handful of chains that do a lot of the high volume, high throughput stuff, and maybe a couple of other specialized chains. Like which world are we going to live in the future?
I think there are two highlights at least on my end going through this journey about multi-chain era, especially with layer 2s. Takeaway number 1, I actually had this discussion with another OG a few days ago saying the entire Ethereum dynamic as of today is that I know this is not the most accurate term, but the monetary the economic design has been updated on the Ethereum layer 1 level after 4844. The financial effect or the economic effect after 4844 is that it's actually make people capable to allow layer 2 carrying more transactions. That's a value proposition of 4844 from layer 2 perspective. But what if I'm taking up this God angle to see what happened after 4844, I think it's like 5 months after 4844, is that all the layer 2 failed. As of today, that all the layer 2 failed, the expectation in terms there will be more transaction going to be happened on my network. And then you got this idea, okay, super fragment. It's a fragment in terms of both transaction, TVL, and so on and so on. And then the second takeaway is being all of the dApp today are multi-chain dApp. And there's a good reason behind it because you don't need any product differentiation or don't see any product differentiation on the dApp level or all the layer 2s. Well, cultural thing is an easy play, but cultural thing won't happen on the stack level. And that's how I see that. And I'm making this example to investors saying, hey, if you are the big boss of the dApp, what you are going to tell your PM is that, hey, let's make a multi-chain dApp. What's the definition of multi-chain dApp? Is that this dApp, especially for the economic logic in terms of gas costs, can even make sense on ETH mainnet. So you don't need to change any line of your code. You make it deployed on ETH mainnet. You can still earn operating profit. And that's today how multi-chain dApp ends up with. And that's why, from MegaETH's perspective, we don't welcome multi-chain dApp. We want a dApp design its operating or business economics purely based on MegaETH gas and MegaETH performance, because we only need to make that happen in order to showing a totally different UX to the markets. That's how we see it. At least makes sense for us to take one step forward and let people, or especially dApp developers, forgot about multi-chain stuff.
Let's fast forward 4 or 5 years. We're at Token 2049, 2029. What do you think still makes your chain, relevant and around, and why does it still exist in a world where I'm sure there's 10 other founders, that have the idea for a MegaETH competitor, and there's big treasuries out there. And I saw some ZK researchers walk into the room right now, and I'm sure everyone wants to go launch their own new chain to go raise that big VC bag. Why is your chain still around in 5 years and relevant and attracting users, developers, and liquidity?
So from my side, I think actually very similarly to Manta, we started with a modular kind of philosophy of like, we don't have to build all the Lego building blocks. We just take a lot of what other specialists have built, we plop it into our system, and maybe like the creativity comes in how that is all connected together, and there's some modifications and so on. But this is like again kind of similarly to what you said. That's actually a long-term philosophy for us, right? So we constantly want to update our stack. We don't want to be too heavy. We want to be nimble in development and so on, so that we keep up with the times. So that's one thing. I do think ultimately, most importantly, it's like maybe not developers. It's like applications. This is something that we're very much focused on right now. And applications, maybe no longer as much like, okay, what's the next degenerate thing we can do for DeFi, but rather like, what problems are we solving? So from our side, I'm very, very interested in founders who are extremely clear about the problem space that they're in. They become this experts in their problem space. They know what kind of a user they're solving those problems for. And we just, we want to support those founders and want to make sure that those applications can survive and succeed. But ultimately, we are dependent on the success of these applications if we want any sort of real mainstream adoption. One more thing I wanted to say, which is on all of these panels, we talk about all the fancy tech stuff and like things are getting better, things are improving and so on. If you go to the global south, you ask the average P2P provider, which is like maybe the biggest use case is getting you like swapping your local long tail shitcoin into which is your currency, right, into USDT. How does it happen? It happens through some P2P services, sometimes centralized exchanges, and all of that flow is actually via Tron. And Tron is like $1 to $2 transaction. It's not, it's not the most modern, the most performant design. If you go to those people,
we got 2 minutes left. So
just to wrap up real quick. So if you go to those people and you ask them, why are you still using Tron? It's like, well, they don't care about any of this. Like any of this mumbo jumbo that we're talking about, they just don't care. Tron already solved the problem for them, and it works, and that's something that they trust and they've used for years and years. So they don't really need us. So
your answer is solving users' problems, adapting from a tech perspective, and hoping that some dApps on your chain win big and stick around.
Nice.
Quick answer from MegaETH, which is we're the next journey after we make a mainnet launch, as well as truly achieve 100,000 TPS, will be rotate sequencer rather than decentralized sequencer. That's make me personally excited for the next 5 years.
Yeah. For Manta, right? I mean, I already preached about modularity, so I don't have to repeat that. But taking the marketing hat off, I just want to mention that, like, from an L2 perspective, what is an L2, right? Like, we're all L2s here, but what is an L2? An L2, honestly, if you look at it from an analogy perspective, it's a server, right? Like, and in order to scale out your application, right? Like, you guys, I don't know, you guys use Gmail, you guys use Duolingo and all this other stuff. They rely on thousands of servers scaling out demand based on the user load, right? If you've got 1 million users using your app one day, you got to scale out to 10,000 new servers, et cetera, et cetera. And so 5 years from now, Yeah, exactly. So it's
No, I mean,
it's
let's wrap up in 10 seconds.
oh 10 I thought you said mega 10-second. But anyway, so yeah, just think about it long term. It's not about any one of us individually, but more about like how do you build that scalability, and it comes in a horizontal side rather than one particular winner.
All right, Damian, want to take us home?
All right, here's my 5-minute answer. No. Also, the history of Bitcoin. No. But why we'll be here in 5 years? Like, the founder of Starkware wanted to apply Starks to Bitcoin in 2013, right? We were established in 2018, and we applied Starks to StarkX. We're the pioneers of Stark Tech. We've been here for 6+ years. We're making breakthroughs in Circle Starks and settling on Bitcoin and a bunch of stuff. Like, we've shown that we're here long term, and I think so long as you're going to continue building for the long term, like, yeah, like I believe we'll still be here.
Current belief, ZK, and tech. All right, guys. Well, amazing panel. Thank you very much for being here with us.